Hi, welcome back to Movie Review Mom. And if this is your very first time discovering my channel, yay, you're here, you made it. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews. I also do trailer reactions, but today I'm going to do a movie review to help you learn a little bit about the movie called The Last Vermeer. My goal here at Movie Review Mom is to give you a heads up on movie making quality as well as film content so that you can make the best decision for yourself and your family as to whether or not you want to spend your time or your money or both watching a specific movie. So let me tell you about this. I'll give you an overview in a nutshell. I'll point out things I liked and didn't like, as well as offer tips for parents, talk about some themes that are definitely worth talking about, and even offer some movie recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that I think you might also really enjoy. Okay, let's dive in. This movie is rated R. It's an hour and 58 minutes, and I'm going to give you my movie review mom grade at the end of my review. So The Last Vermeer is based on a true story, and the movie begins in 1945, 3 years before the fall of Hitler's Reich. The movie is also based on Jonathan Lopez's 2008 book called The Man Who Made Vermeers, Unvarnishing the Legend of Master Forger Han van Meegeren. So Dan Friedkin makes his directorial debut in The Last Vermeer. He actually played a stunt pilot in the movie Dunkirk. So Europe and World War II is kind of his thing, apparently. I'm always completely amazed when another movie set during the World War II time period tells an intriguing story that I've never heard about before. And this is the case in this movie for sure. So let me tell you about some of the things that I really liked about the movie. First of all, Guy Pearce. I think the very first time I saw Guy Pearce in a movie was in The Count of Monte Cristo. I thought he was really great. I immediately liked him and have enjoyed all of his performance in all of his movies in a variety of genres. In this movie, he plays a Dutchman named Han van Meegeren, a painter and an art dealer. Some say Guy Pearce's performance was over the top in this movie, while others view his overacting as an actual interpretation of a man who was probably in real life very flamboyant, eccentric, and maybe even a little insecure. And so he overcompensated for it through his personality. Anyway, I thought he gave a really great performance. And like I said, I just really like him anyway. You also get to travel to Amsterdam, and I always love traveling in real life, but when I can't during the pandemic, at least I can pretend I'm in those locations around the world. And in this case, I actually have been to Amsterdam, so it was really fun to kind of revisit some of the places that are spotlighted in the movie. You get a real feel of what Holland would have looked and felt like during that World War II period. I felt like the costume design, set pieces, and backdrops are just fantastic, and in many instances, gorgeous. I mean, it's Europe. This is the kind of movie that makes you feel almost a little more cultured after watching it, simply because it revolves around European art. I really liked the bird's eye view in some of the various scenes, and I thought that the camera work was really good throughout the entire film. I love it when you can read and learn more about the story on the end screen before the final credits. Such an interesting story about the most successful forger in history. So keep watching when the movie is over and you'll learn even more. There's lovely music by Johann Soderquist, which scoops you up from the very beginning of the movie. Now, there's a lot of gray area, I think, in how viewers will interpret this film. I always like that because it gets good conversations going. One of the big themes of the movie is gray areas in life. What behavior is acceptable or not acceptable during normal time versus wartime. And so I really appreciated that element of the storytelling. Many of the frames just look like artistic masterpieces themselves, just beautifully done. There are some contrasts of characters as well that illustrate how people rationalized lowering or changing their values and standards during the terrible conditions of World War II. So it's interesting to ask yourself, what would you have been willing to do during war just to survive? And there have already been many movies about that element alone. And I think it's really intriguing. The story is filled with rich tension throughout. And finally, this is just a very good film that I think has absolutely flown under the radar for most people. If you love historical drama, the World War II time period, and true stories, I think you're really going to enjoy this movie. However, there were a few things that I didn't like. So let me tell you about those. First of all, the European accents are a little hit and miss. Now, of course, we have a coming together of accents because we've got Dutch people, some Danish people, Germans, Austrians, French. So there is a variety of accents to begin with, but not all of the actors are as good at their accents as some of the others. Oh yeah, and British as well, of course. The movie feels like it's kind of split into two parts, courtroom drama and everything else. Some viewers will prefer the scenes in court with all the legalese and the drama and the tension, watching the court case unfold, while others will enjoy more of the other scenes, time spent with characters outside of all that, at parties, on the streets, and that kind of thing. And that's not really a bad thing, but it did kind of feel a little disjointed because of that. Act 1 moves a little slowly, and then it picks up speed in Act 2. Then Act 3 finishes out the story, but it actually kind of has two endings as well. It could have ended earlier with a different vibe, but it actually keeps going after you think it's over. And then there's a little bit of a twist that I thought added another layer to the story, and I actually really enjoyed it. Look to see where you might have ended the story if you had been the director. Now, let me share some tips for parents with you. First of all, children are just going to be bored, and they really won't understand the history or the complicated politics or the legalese of artwork and copyright and all of that. In theaters, you're going to see an audience of mostly older viewers that generally are attracted to this type of movie. But it's kind of a shame because there's so much interesting content in the movie and things to learn and topics worth talking about. There is some profanity and some F-bombs. You see a firing squad actually kill people in two different scenes, and then some men get into a violent brawl in another scene. Some of the themes that are definitely worth talking about address the value of art, hope, injustice, innocence versus guilt, the right to a fair trial, truth, integrity, marriage, sacrifice, history, forgery versus authenticity, and then villains and heroes. And that last one I think is really interesting because you're not sure which ones are the villains and which ones are the heroes throughout the entire telling of the tale. So I really liked that ambiguity. That uncertainty is what builds that tension. Now, whenever I watch a movie, I always write down the funny lines and interesting lines to share them with you. And I post all of them on my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So you can run over there and check those out. But I'll share just a couple of them with you right now. There's one line that just kind of made me laugh out loud, and it's spoken by Guy Pearce, who plays Han van Meegeren, and he says, "I believe every fascist deserves to be swindled." And that's part of the story is, was he swindling Hitler and the Reich by selling them forgery, or was he working with them, or was he stealing the art pieces? And you're not sure during the whole story, wait, what is this guy all about? Anyway, so I thought that line was kind of funny. And then there's another line where Captain Joseph Pillar, played by Klaus Bang, says, I suppose this is more adulation than even you imagined, after people were saying how amazing he was. And then Guy Pearce, who plays Han van Meegeren, says, are you kidding? I always imagined it. And I just thought that that was kind of funny. There are many interesting lines in addition to those clever, witty lines. Okay, I'm going to share two of them with you. So the first one is also spoken by Guy Pearce's character. And he says, I feel that in life, as in art, it's best not to spoil the surprise. And I thought that that was really interesting. And then there's a conversation. And then Captain Joseph Pillar says, different conversation, but he says, you know, I never cared about art, but now I know that all truly great artists bravely walk through the fire of critics and doubting sheep to claim their place in history. And that one kind of hit hard because as a film critic, here I am criticizing film when I've never made a film myself. I'm an author and I feel like a storyteller with marketing and all of that. That's kind of marketing strategies, kind of my expertise as I coach clients and small business owners. My little shameless plug, in case you need a little bit of help, contact me. But I do value that. And I appreciate that he said that you really risk that vulnerability when you put yourself out there. Everybody wants to feel like they're good enough. And when you put a piece of yourself out there, either through literature or art or music or whatever, you're opening yourself up to criticism. And so that's another reason why in all of my reviews, I always point out things I liked and didn't like, because even if I hated the movie, I can still find things that I liked. And even if I love a movie, there are still things that probably could be improved upon. Anyway, I just thought that that was a really interesting line. Okay, so before I go, let me give you a couple of recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that I think you might enjoy. Immediately, the first movie that came to my mind is called The Monuments Men. Also set in World War II or just after the war, some Americans are tasked with the assignment of trying to find all of the missing art or the hidden art that either Hitler's soldiers stole from museums or houses or private collections and put them back into museums. And anyway, I thought it was really good. I felt like it could have been fantastic. And so it missed the mark for a little bit for me on a few things, but overall, I thought it was really enjoyable. And then another really interesting movie is called Girl with a Pearl Earring. And it's based on a very famous piece of art and the backstory of who she was and how this piece of art came to be. So I think that you'll also enjoy that. Oh, wait, there's one more I have to tell you about. It's called Woman in Gold, also about stolen artwork during World War II, and fabulous performances and a true story. So I think you're going to enjoy all of those. All right, that's it for my movie review today. I hope that if you watch this movie that you do enjoy it. I think you will. And thank you for subscribing to my channel. While you're at it, be sure and ring that little bell and it'll notify you every time I upload new movie reviews as well as movie trailer reactions. And thanks also for those of you who are going over to Patreon to support me there. As all artists, we always appreciate our patrons. Anyway, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.